Hey guys, thanks for tuning into the show again today. I'm honored to have the Fulton sisters, or at least two of the four on the podcast with us today. We're going to talk about a whole bunch of things, from updates in the GTA real estate market, from what's going on in the single family or freehold housing market versus what's going on with condos, both resale and pre-construction. Then we're going to talk about advice for brand new realtors, advice for realtors that are a little bit more experienced in their career, and even advice for realtors that are looking at scaling down and looking towards retirement and what they should be thinking about in regards to succession planning. And of course, we're going to talk about, how exactly realtors come into the second generation, third generation, and everything that's within that, from family dynamics to how exactly does it work, getting involved in management, all that kind of stuff. So it's a great conversation, and I can't wait for you guys to hear it and give us some feedback. My name is Cody Kraus, and I'm a real estate broker owner that's obsessed with everything real estate. Investing, building, selling, developing, farming, you name it. I've been doing this since I was 18 years old, and I've learned a ton through trial and error, and I've met some of the coolest people ever. This is a show where I invite these people on to talk about their experiences and mine, plus everything else real estate. Let's go. Well, welcome everybody back to the Everything Real Estate Show. I have some virtual guests joining me today, and they're better known as the Fulton sisters, or the Fulton real estate group from Century 21 Percy Fulton in Toronto. And I have two of four sisters, right? There's four of you guys total. Three in real estate.
Yes.
And so anyways, I am blessed to have joined me today Katelyn and Carly. And for anybody that doesn't know the Fultons, who are the Fultons?
Wow. Thank you so much for having us, Cody. We are super excited. We love doing podcasts. So who are the Fultons? Our elevator, pitch would be that we are third generation real estate brokers in the GTA area, currently succeeded by our father, Claire, and then Percy, who the name is our grandfather. We also sell real estate in the GTA area, but we also manage a mid-sized Toronto real estate brokerage, about 450 agents, and we're really excited to be here.
It's funny that mid-size is 450 agents.
I know. You would think that we're big, but there's brokerages here that have 6,000 agents. Mm-hmm. So we're almost small, actually.
Yeah.
That's funny. So 10 years ago, our entire real estate board in Windsor, Essex had about 900 realtors. So you guys
right. And ours right now is about 65,000, and it went down from 73,000. So that's quite a big change, but there's still 65,000. I
68.
think. Oh, 68. Either way, we are one of the biggest boards in the world.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to pull up my phone real quick here for some quick math, because I always find this interesting. The GTA area, I believe, is approximately 6 million population right now.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So 6 million, and you said 67,000 realtors?
There's 68,000 now.
68,000? Yeah. Which would mean 1 in every 88 people that lives in the GTA has a real estate license. Does that sound about right? Okay.
No competition at all.
No kidding. So it's also better known as the most competitive real estate market in the world.
That's right.
Yeah. Now, are you guys right in Toronto? Like downtown?
We are in Toronto. We're like East Toronto, which is Scarborough. So it's like a suburb of Toronto. We're not right downtown Toronto, but we're about 20 minutes out. So not too far.
We are still considered part of what Drake would call the Six. So Scarborough is included in that.
Okay, cool. And so let's dive into that. What's going on in Toronto right now, real estate? From what I'm hearing, there's kind of two markets right now. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Sure. So, listings are going up. We're sitting at about 20,000 listings right now. And if you had asked us 3 weeks ago, we were about 17,000. So our listings are definitely increasing, really quickly. And that makes sense now that we're towards the end of February. People are getting ready for spring market.
Yep.
There definitely is something to be said about condos versus single family detached homes. However, you would be probably surprised to know that most of our sales in February are equal condos and single family residents. So the media is going to tell you all about how condos are down, and they are for sure. But in terms of the number of sales, we have actually sold as many condos as we did single family residences in the month of February. So a little misleading what you're seeing in the market, but definitely condos, as we go over time, are going to take a hit. Prices have softened a little, but also not as much as you would think. Prices are maybe down only like 1% in the condo world. So it's not as dramatic as what you're reading in the media. So we break down our stats every week on our Monday meeting. So we're not just looking at the month prior. We're looking week to week to week, comparing it to the previous week and compared to the same week last year. So we're really diving into our stats every Monday so that it's not just what you get reported at the end of the month. So we're paying really close attention to that.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing about statistics is they're always 30 days behind because they had to prove themselves first, right?
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I mean, February in general, a little bit of a slow month, but if you compare it to last February, we were also pretty slow last February. So it's not bad. We are hopeful, feeling pretty optimistic, I think, about the market. We had a presentation yesterday by Ben Rabindo, who sort of broke down all of the stats and how to sort of proceed for the next year. And we're optimistic. We're feeling pretty good, even though, for sure, it's a little bit slow and the economy is struggling. So no doubt about that.
I think Ben yesterday said we're predicting about 10 to 20% increase in sales this year. So hopefully that's a positive outlook that we can keep an eye out for.
Is that Canada as a whole? Is that Ontario? Is that
I think it was
Toronto?
Ontario.
That was Ontario.
All of Ontario.
Okay, so like an increase of 10% of the number of homes sold.
Number of sold,
Yeah, not so much prices,
24.
but houses. Yeah.
Okay, well that's good. I mean, I'm kind of figuring that housing was going to be flat as far as the number of sales this year, which
we did too. We budgeted like nothing almost. So I think we budgeted 5% just to give ourselves a little bit of optimism. But after hearing him yesterday, we felt a little bit more positive about this year.
Yeah, Ben's messaging right now is very, very much that there is an undersupply of single-family homes because, like the townships track their number of starts as all types of housing. They don't segregate it from purpose-built rentals to condos to single-family. So tons of purpose-built rentals, not a ton of single-family coming to the market.
Yeah. And part of his messaging to our agents and for people that are listening was if you've got people that are sitting on the sidelines saying, I'm waiting for the right moment, they're in the right moment right now because of that supply. Because as years go on, there's basically no starts of that. And that's going to put a lot of pressure on pricing. So if you've got buyers that are hanging out, and we know for sure there's pent up demand because we can see it in the stats, we see it in our own clients as well. And they're starting to wake up a little bit. But right now, this year is that sweet spot. If you had any desire or motivation or goal to get into a bigger house or to do something different, this year might be the year for you to do it.
Yeah, I think whether we call it a good market or a bad market or a sideways market, there's opportunity for everybody in every market. And the opportunity I really see right now is if you're selling that entry-level home and then going into the mid-range or upper-level home, just because you're going to be selling in a full-out seller's market.
Exactly.
But then purchasing in maybe a balanced or even slightly tilted towards the buyer market.
Yeah, and we're even seeing a pattern just in our own clientele, which is kind of sad, but we're seeing lots of senior clients have been approaching us in the last couple of months, or seniors' families, and they're either about to pass away, like they're sick right now, and they want to sell their house before the person passes and not have to go through probate and all of that, but also seniors that are looking to downsize completely and go into nursing homes and stuff like that. So we've been getting a lot more calls on that lately, especially in the Scarborough area for more senior citizens that are looking to just cash out right now as well, to kind of live the rest of their life, I guess, right?
Well, you know what? We've noticed that, I would say over the last 5 years here, people are kind of going, okay, well, if we've had that home and it's paid for, we can sell it. And if they're selling a mid-range home here, it's worth $500,000, $600,000, $700,000. If you're, in your last semester of life, you're in your last 25 years, if you can sell that paid for house, put it in the bank, even if it's just in a GIC, you're making 4% on $500,000. That's going to cover most of your rent if you're going into a rental apartment or something like that. And then the other thing is it takes away the opportunity for the kids to fight about the money once they've passed. Should we keep the house and renovate it before we put it up for sale? Well, the realtor said that it's only worth $750,000. I think it's worth $900,000. We should probably try and sell it ourselves before we give it over to there's all those things that ensue. And the parents are already passing on. The last thing they want is their estate to tear apart the kids. And all that kind of stuff
exactly.
too.
Yeah. So we do a lot of family planning, especially lately for that right now.
Yep. Now, 20,000 active listings, you said in the GTA. Now, what percentage of those would be condos versus freehold?
Half and half.
Yeah.
It's about half and half. And the sales are about half and half.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. And then pre-con is the really tough thing in Toronto right now, right? So obviously there was a ton of investors coming to the market. And they were looking at pre-con, and it worked for 7, 8, 10 years where you'd, buy the assignment contract, flip it before you ever get occupancy and make some money and go do it again. But then rates on condos because of the cost of construction, because of the cost of land, because COVID, the inflation, everything pushed up the condo pricing like crazy. Some people bought contracts at what, $1,600 a square foot?
Yeah, right downtown. Yeah, for sure.
And what are they actually selling for right now? What are condos actually selling for per square foot?
We're seeing like 1,100 a square foot, so it's gone down significantly. So that's the problem right now, right?
Yeah, pre-con is so fascinating. So we started in 2017, and when I started getting all these questions from agents like, "Do you have access to this project? How do we get access?" And I came in and was like really hot. And our father was never really a pre-con guy just because of how volatile it was. It just was never his thing. So he used to tell agents, "No, no, no, we don't do that." I came on board kind of young and green, maybe a tiny bit naive, and said, okay, let's try to figure out how we can get some access. And I started building relationships and getting the access. We started becoming VIP on stuff. We actually grew our pre-con business to like 10% of our entire business in that hot time. And that was time where we were fighting for worksheets and trading units. And it was like really crazy. Now we're in 2025. And I have builders begging me to put projects in front of our agents to try to get things sold. And it's a totally different world. Like I'm not even pushing it as much as I used to anymore because we have to fight to get paid. I don't even know if these things are going to close. We have a project we sold 14 units in that's not even going to happen at all. And I've got deposits, sitting there for these clients. And now we're kind of like backing away a little bit more towards like what my dad was doing. But there's a great opportunity right now. I'm still telling agents, if you do have that investor that's got a bit of cash and is willing to take this risk and gamble a little bit, there's a lot of great incentives for pre-con right now. And it's actually not a bad time to buy pre-con, but it's a totally different world. The gap between the resale and the pre-con is slowly coming together. And at this point, you might as well buy resale, something that's available today because there's no shortage of inventory of what's there right now. But what a fascinating world with almost practically no starts for end of 2024, beginning of 2025. That's going to cause a huge supply issue down the road. Like when we're talking 2027 and there's, no new starts, then that's going to, again, put more pressure on the existing inventory today. But what a fascinating, interesting world. And I think it's a lot different than what it used to be for sure. And it changed quite quickly.
Yeah.
So the people that were buying these units and actually closing on them, that wanted to, use them as long-term rentals, they were cash flow negative, especially if they got financing, in 2023 or 2024 at 6%. So now financing's come down about, 1/3 to 4-ish. Rents are still pretty strong. I know they've come down a little bit.
But rents are strong, but what's hurting people is the occupancy fees. So we used to be able to sell it like, hey, don't worry, occupancy fees just similar to market rent, not a big deal. Now your occupancy fees are like 3 times what it would be. Like your development charges are crazy. I have people that have studio condos in Toronto that are paying $5,000 a month just in occupancy fees for who knows how long until that building is registered. So that occupancy time is really hurting people because you need cash for that. The mortgage is not stepping up for that. And that's where I'm seeing people are being really affected. But still, we haven't had too many people that haven't been able to close. Like they've been able to kind of figure it out. They're for sure cash flow negative. So that's a shock to the system for sure. But even people that are on the brink of not being able to close, we're telling people don't hide from the builder, get in front of them, let them know what you can afford and try to negotiate because builders don't want extra units either. They don't want to have to try to resell these in a market like this. And you'd be surprised if you negotiate a little bit, especially if you've got a really strong pre-construction agent. Don't hide from the builder. Try to get in front of them, negotiate early, and you might be surprised that bigger ones might be able to help you out. Smaller ones, not so much. That's a totally different ballgame, but it really depends on the builder.
So that's on the pre-con side. And so for people that might not be familiar with that occupancy period, so that's a brand new condo has come to the market and the developer said, okay, your units are ready to occupy now. However, they have a year to register that title the condominium status certificate, title system, whatever, the way I understand it. And so you actually have to pay the developer rent until the company you're getting the mortgage from can actually put a lien on title.
Yeah, so you're paying basic maintenance, basic hookup costs, but what was a shocking factor is you're actually paying the interest that the builders are paying on their loan. So as interest went up, you as the consumer are fronting that interest, and that's where the occupancies shot up. And that's very unique for Ontario. That does not happen in a lot of provinces. Most provinces will absorb those type of costs, so that's a pretty unique thing for the Ontario pre-construction market.
Okay, now if we look at the investors on the resale side of it, they're probably in an okay spot to buy right now because the pricing has softened, right? It's come down from the peak. I would imagine 20-30% if your market's anything like ours.
Yeah.
And then your
Yeah,
cost
as long as the mortgage, I think that's where it's getting screwed up is the interest rate on the mortgages is still keeping that monthly fee up. So even though the rental's still good, a lot of people are still like cash flow negative, I would say here. There's not many that are positive.
No, if
Okay.
you're a savvy investor, you're in a pretty good position because you've been planning for this and you've been planning for, ebbs and flows. If you're a new investor that just started in 2021 and bought really high and now you're on a variable, those are the people we are seeing they're putting their house back on the market and they're just trying to, cut their losses. And that's what we're finding is driving that non-existent sort of investor market. It's kind of like the new investors who got into it in a hot market. It was just sort of bad timing and they're not prepped enough to ride this out the long term because you can ride this out. Like we'll probably be okay in a couple of years, right? But it's the initial hit and the initial shock, and it's people are putting their condos up for sale.
Because in 2, 3, 5 years, you're not going to have that extra supply being introduced to the market that you're talking about.
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's shift gears a little bit. How did you guys get started in real estate? How did your dad start? How did your grandpa start? Like, was it even an option for you guys to start in real estate now that you're bearing the Fulton name, the third generation?
You would think so.
If you want to really backtrack, so Percy, his mom had a fish and chip shop on the Danforth, and when he was a kid, he would, be at the shop and helping his mom, and he would watch clients, like consumers would walk by the shop and like not come in. They would just keep walking, and he was like, "Why are they coming into our store?" And there's another competitor or whatever the case is. And he was like, "I don't like this business." He's like, "I'm going to go to a business where I can like go out and get the business myself. I'm tired of people walking past me. This doesn't make any sense." And he got his real estate license. And then, that was a business where you'd go out and get your own sales. And longer history, he ended up buying one of the first franchises of Century 21 in Ontario. Gary has a lot of stories about that. And then fast forward a little bit more, he got sick and he did pass away in the 90s. And around that time, he didn't have really a retirement plan. So insert Claire comes in to take over the business, got his license as well. Claire came from a sales background, but not real estate sales, and it was more corporate entrepreneur. He came in and kind of organized the business, got it to #1 in Canada and then #1 in the world from a totally different sort of perspective. And then meanwhile, we're kids, we're kind of helping out. We all have our own careers, but we were all university educated. We were not allowed to be in the business.
I think that's the shocker for a lot of people.
Yeah.
They think that we were supposed to be in it, but dad actually didn't want us in it at all.
Interesting.
So,
okay.
yeah, he kind of told us, I don't know if he said it as kids, but we worked here in high school and university, like being admins and all that kind of stuff. But he said, like, don't even think about real estate until you're 30, like go to school, do your own thing. And so we all went to university. Like I did healthcare for 7 years. Carly and Paige were both HR. But yeah, we weren't allowed to think about it till 30. And I don't even think we even had an interest really until around 30. He wanted us to get married, buy houses, be adults, all that good stuff. And then it was me, actually. I think I was in healthcare. I don't know if something triggered. I think I got promoted pretty quickly in healthcare, like at Sick Kids Hospital. And I realized that was actually the peak of the career I could go. And I remember asking my manager, "How do I get your job? Like, how do I get the boss?" And I had to get like a master's in nursing, which was a whole other, like more school. I was like, "Oh, I don't want to do that." And then having someone tell me when my lunch could be and when I could go on trips, that started to bother me at 29. And then eventually I was like, forget it. I'm going to go into real estate. But one day I just randomly I Googled what roles are needed in real estate, and recruiting was one of them. So I created an entire PowerPoint presentation and a business plan for my father on why he should hire me to recruit people into the brokerage.
Love it.
And I think he thought it was a joke until he saw like how detailed this thing was. And then I think did he sit you guys down, I believe, and say like, "Katelyn's talking about it. What do you guys
Yeah,
think?"
like our dad's all about equality. All 4 of us are treated pretty equally, and that's a whole other financial conversation for later. But yeah, Katelyn was the trigger, the bell ringer that was like, "Hey, I'm kind of considering something." He goes, "Well, if you are, then we've got to get all the girls on board." So then we were all approached, and I said I was at a time where in my career where I was either going to move to San Francisco and start doing something like totally big corporate, blah blah blah, and I was like, I don't really want to do that either. Maybe we should look into the family business. Finally, I was 30, you were close to 30. Yeah. We were out, of the age where we were allowed to think about it. And then he hired a consultant named Wayne Einhorn from EDI, which you may know from Century 21 World. He's done some presentations. He was hired by Claire to interview us one-on-one and sort of give the blessing that we were even qualified enough to.
This was
be
for
in the
a year.
business.
This was a year-long interview we had with him. While we were doing school, every 2 weeks after our day jobs, we'd go. It was like 6:30 p.m. We'd meet in some Regis office with him for a year.
Yeah.
Just talking about real estate and all that stuff. And I think we just opened up the books and learned a lot. And then he did our in one-on-one interviews to make sure we were each okay. And that's when he got the blessing.
Yeah, he called Claire and he said, Claire, the girls are more than ready. They've been prepping for this their entire lives, basically. They all have university degrees. They're all educated. They're all mature. Like, you're crazy to not even consider them. Like, we need to make this happen. And then we were tasked with making up our own salaries, our job descriptions, titles, kind of what we would do. So all of that was organized before we even came into the business.
Yeah.
So
which is
no
wild.
golden spoon there. He said, first off,
there is
don't.
no spoon here, as much as people would love that. Like, we no.
First of all, Claire doesn't sell real estate, so there's a misconception that we were getting all these leads from our dad. I'm like, he's never even sold a house himself either, so there was 100% no leads coming from our dad. And then even our office location was like right in front of the washrooms. It was like the worst cubicle you could have in the entire space. Like, we had 10,000 square feet and we literally had the worst space you could have in front of the bathrooms, where there was no announcement. We kind of just like showed up and we were working there now, and everyone's like, who are the new girls? Like, who are they? Like, didn't even know who we were. And then we started off in like deal admin at the front desk, taking calls, kind of like all the roles we circulated through sort of the offices of all of that stuff. And that's how we learned what we could improve, what we could do differently. Kaylee hit the ground running recruiting. We recruited really hard. She did really well in those first couple of years. You recruited over 200
like over
agents.
200 agents. Went a little aggressive.
Okay.
We got a little too good at it. So we've adjusted our strategy a little bit, but started selling, really like selling. So we continued to grow our team that way. Our roles have always kind of evolved a little bit naturally. Like, at some point I took over a little bit of recruiting, helped Katelyn with that. And then I took a step back too. So it kind of just ebbs and flows depending on what the business needs as well. But as of today, we kind of have our core responsibilities pretty down pat. But it was quite the journey to get to where we are now, and a lot of hard work for sure.
It's funny. There's a lot of like second gen and now third gen, real estate kids getting into the business. And I think
which is awesome.
almost all of the parents said, don't do this. Like, I'm second generation. My dad sold real estate and they were like, no, go to school, get an education. You don't want to do this. And then I dropped out of school, got my real estate license. And I'm like, no, I want to do it. I want to do it.
Good.
Yeah.
And
sometimes it works out. Like, there's a really high fail rate with the second generation coming in. There's even higher fail rate with the third generation. But sometimes our boomer parents worked very hard. And when you get a millennial or Gen Z coming in, with like the work ethic's a lot different than the boomer world.
Yep. Well, that, and I wonder if it was like, come in and I'll just make it easy for you. I'll refer my business. And if you take the opposite approach that your dad did, which is don't want you here, don't need you here, you shouldn't be here, go do something else. Well, now you're like, no. Now I need to prove myself. Now I need to show you that I want to be there, not that I'm, getting it handed to me. So different attitude, I guess, when your parents take that approach, which I respect. I think it's cool.
Yeah.
So you guys are, from my context, you're running a huge company. From Toronto context, maybe not a huge company, but I would imagine that you have realtors at every state in their career, from brand new to they're coming over to your company when they're already 5, 10, 15 years into it. And then there's probably those that are looking at retirement or succession planning too. Can you maybe speak to the 3 phases, I guess, of a realtor's career, brand new, and then kind of experience leveling up, and then I guess succession or retirement? What advice would you have for a brand new realtor right now getting into the market, especially in the most competitive real estate market in the world, really, which is Toronto?
Yeah, totally.
Oh man, that's a tough one.
Okay, let's start with like your newcomer. So first of all, when we came into the company, we had always sort of only recruited new agents. It was what we were good at. I think it's a little bit of what Century 21 is known to be really good at in terms of education and training. So when we first started, that's where we started, brand new, right from school, have a lot of success recruiting brand new people. We have an amazing training program. We're very hands-on, very one-on-one. We're full service as well, so that helps out when you're brand new as well. And I'd say most of the agents we recruited were brand new, and the thinking is that at some point they're either going to make it or break it. You can't actually tell at the beginning who is going to do really well, but our hope is that you get 5 to 10% that are going to become full-time, really successful agents. And that's kind of the hope when you're recruiting so many brand new people, because not everybody can cut it. We've changed our strategy a little bit recently to now focus on mid-level producers and a little bit more experienced people as well. I'd say it's a little bit more challenging from the recruiting point of view to target those people. And so we get discouraged really easily. We want to kind of go back to the new because it's what we're good at. It's what works. But as a business, we do have to focus on our top producers and focus recruiting on that way as well. So advice for a new agent, I'd say do all the training, come to all the things that your brokerage is providing, or even outside the brokerage. There's tons of stuff online now, like even more than when
and
we
not
first
just
started.
come to the training, but actually like do the stuff that you're learning in training. There's lots of people that will come to the trainings, show up to every single thing, but then don't actually do the things. So that was one thing I think that we did when we were brand new, was we just tried everything. So we did the door knocking, the open houses, the cold calling, social media, all that stuff. And I think as a new agent, at least for 5 years, you almost have to like sacrifice quite a bit by working evenings and weekends. Most of them come in with part-time jobs. So knowing that you don't have as much time, but you do have to kind of sacrifice a lot of evenings, weekends, family time, and all that for quite a few years. And eventually it gets better. But I think if you can make it past that, we say the third year is kind of the breakthrough year. If you can make it to that,
when you've renewed your insurance and your licensing.
Time. Yeah, like if you make it to that third year, usually your third year is the breakout year. So if you don't get discouraged in those first few years, then most of those agents do well. I find most agents these days give up after like 6 months. They go get their license, they try a bunch of stuff for 6 months, nothing works, and then they're back to working full time. Yeah. And real estate's just there if someone calls them.
I think agents make selling real estate look very easy. I think because we take in all the stress and all the stuff we go through behind the scenes, and we don't really communicate that. So I think new people coming in think that this is going to be an easy money making kind of job, and then they're like, holy crap, this is really hard, and you get beat up every day, and like takes a long time to kind of get going. And I tell new agents too, don't complicate it. Like your only job right now is to meet people that need to sell real estate, and all you need to do every day is reach out to people. And it's not like what our dad would say where you have to call people. You could text people now, you can DM people now. It's a little bit different, but that's really your only job right now. And if you can't do that every day, then you're going to struggle a lot in selling real estate in a big way later.
I feel like we did it to ourselves as realtors. Like way too many people post pictures of themselves like with their MacBook at the beach going, oh, I love my job, it's all great. And you know what? Maybe we should just talk about our jobs less publicly and just do the job instead. So if I could pull a couple points maybe that you said to a brand new realtor out of that. So one is plug into everything that your office, your brokerage, or even your board or other organizations are offering in the area. So get all the education that you can.
Yeah.
Pass the actual licensing, because it seems like anybody can pass the licensing.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
So then taking all the education.
I don't know how people do that, but yeah.
Yeah, they don't really teach you a whole lot about selling real estate in those courses. They don't even teach the right rules and regulations right now, from what I understand. But yeah, I think you got to really learn sales and scripts. Like I think our dad sent us to a Mike Ferry training event like the first week we were in the business, and we were shocked. We were like I was a cardiac sonographer for 7 years, and now I'm in like, I don't know. Have you been to a Mike Ferry conference before?
No,
I'm a great.
They make you
like it's a lot of.
They make you
chanting
stand up and chant all these like affirmations out loud, and then you're reading scripts out loud. And it's a very interesting experience. But Dad just kind of tossed us into every conference, like Richard Robbins, all those coaches that kind of come to town. He was like, go to everything, absorb, learn, and do all that, and then take some stuff and do it as well. So I think a new agent needs to really just take some money and put it towards conferences, training, all that stuff, and like really learn what this job is going to be all about.
Okay, so plug into all the education. So take advantage of what's being offered, I guess is probably
and for
how
free.
to put it.
We're not saying get paid coaches. Like go to all the free stuff.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep. And then 2 was do all the hard work, the stuff you don't want to do, and do it when you don't even want to do it. So do it during the dinner times, the weekends, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Especially if you're still working another job. Because like you said, a lot of people, they got to pay to put themselves through the education portion of it. And life's bills don't stop in the meantime. And then you're in the new career, and there's no base salary, obviously, in real estate. So you still got to fund your lifestyle at that time too.
Yeah.
So be prepared to do the things you don't want to do when you don't want to do them, I guess is probably the way to put it. And then I guess the third thing I can probably pull out of that, you guys gave a lot of advice there, but the third thing I could probably pull out of that is don't be discouraged by not selling a house in your first 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, or not selling as much as you'd like, after that first year, even going into your second year. Like, be willing to bet on yourself for a full 3 years. And if you can make it to that point and you are still putting in the hard work, you're still, making the cold calls or cold texts, or you're still going to the training events and doing the stuff that maybe makes you uncomfortable. If you can do that for 3 years, there's a really good chance you'll have a thriving career after that.
Yeah. And we saw it yesterday. We had our awards ceremony yesterday, and Claire's always wondering what like the new guys are up to and if they're selling. And I'm like, I watched them all walk across the stage yesterday. It was really cool because some of them have been like really like wanting the ring or like getting that award level, and like seeing them, the guys that are in their 3rd to 5th year now, like they're getting up there, getting centurions, getting like all these cool awards, and you saw them put in the work. And then you see the agents that joined around the same time as them, that aren't around, but then you see those guys that were showing up to the office every day, putting themselves out there. They're the ones that are doing really well. And they thanked us for saying 3 years, because they were like, they would have given up if we didn't say that. If we said, yeah, you'll sell a house in 6 months, they probably would have been out of the business already.
Yeah.
So make it 3 years. And you said something too, they're showing up to the office every day.
Like a lot of our guys are. Yeah.
We're in a real estate industry that seems to be going virtual, right? There's an emphasis on not having an office and decentralizing it and not working together. You can do your own thing.
Yeah, like we want to work from home too. So like we're not shy about the fact that we want to be virtual. Like we're with you. We also want to work from home, but you do have to have a routine, even if it's a couple hours a day, just to show up and talk to people. And you need to get out. You need to get out and do something. So I mean, we're the same. We also want to work from home a little bit, but you have to have balance, I think, as well.
Well, and there's like formal training, but then there's I don't know how else to say it, but the coffee shop talk, right? Like, what price ranges are multiple offers working in right now? Hey, resale condos that are, 600 to 800 square feet that are 15 to 20 years old. Like, what are the challenges that you guys are seeing in selling those right now? Is it the condo fees because the buildings all of a sudden need a lot of maintenance? And you're not going to get that at a conference because they're teaching you, maybe how to run your business or sales tactics or scripts, depending on the conference that you're going to, but you're not getting the day-to-day, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's great advice for a brand new realtor. Let's talk about the experienced realtor. We've made it 3 years. We're getting our career. You mentioned Richard Robbins earlier. So Richard Robbins would probably call this, we're getting to that phase where we're on the treadmill now. And, we made some sales, but we're just not really leveling it up, and it's not seeming like a business yet. It just seems like we're putting in the motions and we're going through them, but it's hard to level it up from here and to scale our time. And it seems like we're busy with the busy work. But the stuff that looked really sexy about the real estate career that we had in our dream, which was, working when we want to and for who we want to and all that kind of stuff. You're like, oh no, there's a lot of hard work involved here. And it's hard to see that next level and how to scale it up. So what advice do you have for an experienced realtor that still has 10, 15, 20 years ahead of them in their career?
I'd say this would be the good time. So we're really well known for our training program, Systems for Success. So I think this is the good time where you start to get your systems into place. So I think the first 3 years is kind of a little chaotic. You're just kind of throwing darts, see what works. Once you start to like sit down with your business and start to figure, okay, this is where my business is mostly coming from. This is what's working for me. I'm going to focus on the things that are actually working and coming up with different systems that allow you to do things more automated, or even like I talk about schedule optimization specifically for experienced agents when it comes to automating things, delegating things, outsourcing things. Like start to figure out if you've got money, how can we replace that money with buying back some time? Whether you're leveraging other people, whether you're taking out some tasks that you're not doing anymore. Like, for example, like us sisters were running around doing stupid things like delivering a lockbox. Like, how can I spend more time in the office growing my business by not doing some like little tasks like that? So we learned to start Amazoning like lockboxes to people. We also got to a point where we didn't want to work evenings and weekends anymore, which is typically when you're working with like buyer clients and you're doing showing. So maybe you start to leverage off other agents in the brokerage and you're having like showing agents help you with doing like a lot of like those types of tasks. And then maybe you're just doing negotiations and offers. So start to figure out what things are actually making you money or what things you actually enjoy doing and what things you can start to outsource. But I don't think you can start to do those types of things until you figure out your systems. whether you're doing like buyer systems, your seller systems, marketing and lead generation systems. So once you figure out like an actual step-by-step process of how you do things, that's when you're going to get organized and be able to actually start to leverage off of other people or different businesses to help you. And that's how you get to that next level and to that succession planning and all of that. So I think systems is the magic pill for like that stage.
I like that advice because we always tell like our brand new realtors, like typically you have a lot of time and not a lot of money. So you need to work on the stuff that, it's going to take your time, whether it's door knocking or networking or whatever. And then as you start getting better in your career, okay, we're kind of balancing those and we can start leveraging our money, right, with less time consuming activities. And then hopefully you get to that point where you're just investing money and you're really making great use of your time. Exactly. And I think this is a good plug for realtors that are, looking at which brokerage to align their business with, because there's totally different models of brokerages too, right? And so some realtors have their own systems, and the thing they're really just looking for from a real estate brokerage is the cheapest model to host their business under. Now, like we're not going to talk about names of brokerages or anything like that, but you want to make sure obviously that you're aligning on values and that they have a good reputation and everything like that. And there's good brokerages in each, I guess, level of service. But then there's some realtors that go, well, maybe there's already companies out there that have systems that I can just plug my business into, right? So I think a lot of realtors are so focused on bringing that gross amount that I pay my brokerage to the absolute minimum. I just want the lowest fees and the highest split, and that's all I care about. But then you're not getting a lot of systems, and then you have to go out and pay for them, right? And then there's other brokerages that go, no. Don't worry about your gross payment to the brokerage. Worry about what you net at the end of the day. Because if you're plugging yourself into a brokerage that doesn't have a good website, that doesn't have a good CRM, that doesn't have great admin support, you're gonna have to hire admin. You're gonna have to go buy a CRM. You're gonna have to go build your own website, all that kind of stuff. So maybe you reduced what you paid the brokerage, but then you had to go out and pay it all yourself anyways. So if you have your own systems, great, and there's options for that, but you might not have to recreate the wheel. You can look at plugging into a company or even a team that has a lot of those systems in place already too, right?
Exactly. Yep.
Okay, and then maybe the realtor that's looking at their next 5 to 10 years, retirement's in the horizon, or they're trying to figure out, okay, I've spent 2-3 decades building this business. Is it just going to die when I retire, or is there a way to succession this to the next generation or to sell it? How exactly would you advise someone who's looking at, and let's pretend they don't have children that they're bringing up into the industry. So maybe a realtor that doesn't have a genetic succession plan. They have to come up with one inside their company.
Genetic succession plan.
We do a lot of this stuff.
Yeah, this is the most heartbreaking thing is when we see an agent approaching what, should be retirement, whatever age that is for them, and they don't have their systems, they don't have a database. Your database is your gold nugget, because that database you can sell for a flat fee. You could do residual business where you pass over your database and you negotiate a residual referral fee for every single piece of business that comes from that. But in order to do that, you need that step before, which is your systems. So you need to be able to have a manual that says from steps A to Z what your admin does every day, how you want your listings to run, how you want your buyers to be shown a house. You need to have all of those documented in a nice little binder or a Google Drive file or something in a way that you could sell that today or pass it on to somebody. So it's somebody that's getting ready to go into their next phase of their life, into that second gen or whatever it is, you need to have your systems ready and you need to have your database organized in a way that you could just literally just hand it off to somebody.
Yeah. And it would break, like Carly said, it breaks our heart because you'll see it and they're ready to retire and you're like, great. Like, I'm sure you have a great book of business. You have all these past clients. You probably, like, you've been in the business for 30 years. You've probably got a great book of business. And they're like, oh no, like I didn't keep track of any of those contacts. Like people just always called them past clients referrals, but they never had like an actual like address book. Like it could, I think one of our agents had a Rolodex, like an actual, like a recipe looking thing. Great. No problem. It's all on paper. We can digitalize that. That was a great thing that we were able to pass off to another agent. But yeah, it sucks when you've seen someone in the business for 30 years and they've never kept track of their contacts or anything. And then there's nothing to sell because there's no, like, how do you keep track of that?
Like, we don't have pension. Like, we don't have a retirement. This is it. Like, all the money you have in your bank is for your retirement. So if you don't have any residual, you're going to have to work literally until you pass away. And that's not really a way to live life either. Although a lot of agents do that and we know them, we have them too. So that's what we try to help our agents with, is getting your systems ready, getting a manual ready, getting your database done. And then what I'm starting to do now is having kind of like plan A, plan B. So plan A is I may work till I'm 75 to 80, because a lot of our agents do. And I think that's great, because I think it's a great way to keep your mind active and stimulated. So plan A is I'm going to work till that long, but I'm going to hire an admin assistant. I'm going to hire a licensed agent, and here's all my systems ready. Plan B is I get sick today. I cannot work any longer, but I'm able to sell my business and have a little bit of residual income. So that's like the emergency plan if something were to happen, because both of those two things could happen when you get to that age. And that's kind of where we're now starting to focus, is let's have a plan A where you can still work until you're 80. Tell me the things that you love to do. I have an agent right now. She's in her 70s. She loves prospecting. She loves waking up every day, calling her clients, asking how they are, getting the listing. And then after that, she's not so fussed with the new Tressa and the Realm and all the stuff that changes all the time. She's not too fussed with that. So her plan is easy. We get somebody to help her with all that stuff. She keeps prospecting for as long as she wants to, and that's great. The plan B will be the emergency plan is, I get sick tomorrow. I can't prospect. I can't do anything, but here's my business and I can earn a little bit of money by doing that. So don't not have your database, please. Like that's money. It's your goal. That's your kids' wealth. That's a lot of stuff in that database. And it could be a Rolodex. It doesn't need to be digital. It could be an Excel spreadsheet. It can literally be anything, but just have something.
Yeah.
Well, and so, yeah, you'd think like a lot of work and time and money wasted, but also too, like they've invested a lot into those relationships with those people too, right? And so if all of a sudden they just call your phone one day and you go, yeah, sorry, I'm not in real estate anymore. And they go, well, what do we do now? Like, obviously we've appreciated your expertise and the advice that you've given us. Like, now all of a sudden, are you just throwing them to the wolves too? So like for the benefit of your clientele that you've been working with for decades, also, you can't just not have a plan for them to. I think this is a great opportunity to go to that second, third, fourth year realtor that's kind of just hitting their groove, but hasn't got super, super busy yet.
Yep.
And start kind of bringing them under your wing and say, hey, you know what? I'm not going to be doing this for forever, but I'd love to start showing you how I've been doing the business and maybe mentor you a little bit, but also look at starting to hand off some of my clientele to you. Maybe even look at the idea of like co-branding where we advertise together. When we do our client events, we'll invite both of our databases to them so that they get comfortable with seeing both of our faces, all that kind of stuff. You don't even necessarily have to like income split or anything like that, but you can, co-market, split investments on client events, all that kind of stuff. Get used to seeing that friendly face. Let them know how you want your business to be handled when you do start walking out the door, basically. But yeah, look for that realtor that's hungry, that's showing, I guess, promise.
And it might take a few, right? Like there's some people that will think one agent's going to do really well with them, but the work ethic doesn't match theirs. So that's why you shouldn't wait till you're in your 70s to do it. You should maybe take like 10 years to start like actually getting someone on the same page as you, because it's really hard to duplicate yourself unless you have your systems in place. But I think like starting early and testing other agents to see who works best with your clients and has the same work ethic as you and they'll treat them the same, like that's going to take some time.
Yeah. Chris Leader said to our office last year, he said, what did he say? Talent works when work doesn't have talent. Anyways, basically you could like have everything look like you're going to be a great success, but if you don't go to work, it doesn't matter. So basically it was hard work.
The best listing presentation, but if it ain't getting used, then
I think you said hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work is how he put it.
Okay.
Yeah. Hard work for sure. We'll exceed everything.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, that's some great advice. Those were most of the topics that I wanted to cover. Do you want to leave the audience with anything today?
Oh, gosh.
That's a big question. Wow, right at the end. We're pretty like no fuss kind of people. We live and breathe real estate, and we're just here to sell houses and make money and help our agents do the same thing. And from Chairman's, one of the owners said to me, Carly, like all I want in life is to make as much money as I can and have as much fun as I possibly can, and from all my agents to do the same thing. So like that's
we're kind of that.
My message to you, like work hard, make a ton of money. Everyone deserves abundance, and there's lots of business out there for you, and have fun doing it. We have a new saying. We added our third gen touch. It used to be when it comes to spending. When it comes to spending, making decisions, like, is it going to make you money or save you money? And, those are two really good things. But we added a third one, which is it going to bring you joy? And I think that's the third gen in us coming out. And yes, we want to make money and work hard, but we also want to have a lot of fun doing it too.
So if buying pink hoodies doesn't save us money or make us money, but it brings us joy. So we pick and choose now with our business and add some joy to our lives.
Yeah.
Cool. And if people want to follow you online, see what you guys are up to, where would they find you at?
Oh man, they could probably find us on Instagram at Fulton Sisters. If you want to watch our Monday meetings and like hear more of our what's going on in the office when we're brokers, you can find us on YouTube, C21 Percy Fulton Agent Training, and we do a weekly YouTube meeting every week.
Cool. Awesome. Thank you so much for your time. Appreciate you guys coming on the show today.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for listening to the show, folks. Please keep in mind that this show is not offering legal, financial, or accounting advice, but rather opinions and experiences in the world of real estate from the host and the guests. If you're enjoying the show, please rate, review, and share with your friends and colleagues. And if you think that there's someone that needs to be on this show, please feel free to connect them with me. Or if there's a topic that should be discussed, feel free to let me know. Thank you so much, and bye for now.